They have to record. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Nobody told me. Thank you very much. Okay, so what we have is now to discuss about the situation of Macedonia and European Union. We go to the next slide, and you will see something that is very important for each country that is willing to join the European Union. Some of the criteria that not has to, it's software, they must fulfill in order to become member. So in 93, first in the European Council in Copenhagen, the European Union member states set some criteria for the newcomers. Newcomers were 10 countries that joined in 2004, Eastern European countries, and 2007, Bulgaria and Romania. So those criteria were set for them, not for the countries before. Those criteria were known as Copenhagen criteria, but in 95, 2 years later in Madrid, as well on the European Council, they had another one. The first Copenhagen were political and economic, and then in Madrid they set administrative criteria. What does it mean? Political means that the country that wants to join a union, they have to have political stable system, develop democracy, to protect the rights of the minorities, etc., etc. All these things are written here. Economic means that the country has should have the market economy, to be open economy, to be ready to cope with the challenges of the competition, because it's a huge market. Yes, if you cannot compete, the others can simply destroy your economy. So you have to be capable to go on the huge market and to compete with other companies there. And administrative, it's very interesting, because when I was writing my master thesis, and this was one of my major, let's say, because I was writing about the reforms of the administration, which are one of the most important reforms of every country. It's interesting that administrative doesn't mean exactly reforms of the administration. It's only one part of that. The most important thing here is how to implement the acquis communautaire. Acquis communautaire is the set of rules set by the European Union. It is French term, acquis communautaire. It is more than 100,000 pages of rules that every country has to accept and introduce in the national law of the country itself. So concerning this, many of the countries still are working on this acquis communautaire implementation, even European Union countries, because it doesn't mean that the members of the European Union, they are done with the reforms. No, the reforms are a constant process. So you cannot say that reforms you've done once, you enter the European Union and you don't do reforms anymore. No, it's a process. You continue, you work on that. You have to develop all the time. So these criteria were set, and according to these criteria, new members were accepted afterwards. So I mentioned 10 countries in 2004, and afterwards Bulgaria and Romania. So we go on the next slide, and we will go directly to some interesting facts. I'm not going to read all of them. These are just some of the programs that EU had implemented for supporting the candidate countries to undertake reforms, to be capable to join the European Union. So these are some of the programs. So much money were invested in different forms, especially in Macedonia. We started with FARE from earlier. We received some money, but officially in '96 we became member of this program, and then different types of program. CARDS, for example, was related to the association and stabilization agreement that we have with the European Union. Many others, than NIPAD is mostly for agriculture, etc. But IPA 1, IPA 2, that they have different. I won't discuss about them because you can read them. And by the way, we don't have a lot of time. You can read it. It's very interesting to see the components of each of these, because they are supporting separate areas of development of each country. Okay, we go to the next slide. There are too many information here. I know I tried to cut because there are so many levels of communication between EU and Macedonia, and the levels of and steps how we developed our relations. But I will go through the most important. You can read as well, so I'm not going to read all of them. But first of all, let's be clear: Macedonia, same as Kazakhstan, was established its independence in '91. Kazakhstan was last from country from Soviet Union. Macedonia was last country from Yugoslavia that proclaimed its independence. We did it in September. You did it in December. So since then, we showed, we somehow promoted to European Union our willingness to join the Union. And of course, we established diplomatic relations, etc. But there was one problem with one member state country. It was Greece. Of course, I'm not going to talk about this problem because as well you can find out a lot on internet and everywhere. And but that problem was kind of temporarily, I could say, solved, which is not solved yet. Temporarily solved in the United Nations, and then we established diplomatic relations with the European Union under the provisional name so-called former Yugoslav Republic of Yugoslavia, because of the problem that we had with Greece. So we couldn't use our name Republic of Macedonia, our constitutional name. After that, you see there is a range of steps that we undertook. First, we signed one agreement, which was kind of first step towards development of these relations. Then Macedonia submitted application to become associate country, like candidate country. Then you see that we signed stabilization and association agreement, which was which entered into force a little bit later, 3 years, because it should be ratified by all member state countries of the European Union in the meantime. But before that, we submitted as well application for the European Union membership. In 2004, we go on the next slide. We accepted some documents that are very important, strategy, how to access the European Union. Then there was a so-called questionnaire. It's a document with thousands of questions from the European Commission that every country who wants to become member should give reply to this, because they're assessing afterwards whether you're going properly in the right direction or you're doing something wrong, etc., etc. We replied to this, and as you see, in 2005, Macedonia was granted status of candidate country. Candidate country means a higher level of communication and cooperation with the Union. Of course, it's not same to be a member state and candidate country, but at least as a candidate country, you have access to some of the funds of the Union that can additionally support development of your economy, of your political system, etc., etc. So, thanks to this, Macedonia entered in a new round, in a new was taken by new wave, let's say, and afterwards, the Commission, which is one of the institutions of the European Union, recommended opening of accession negotiation. What does it mean? Each country, candidate country, should start a negotiation process, which lasts for some years. There are a lot of criteria that should be fulfilled, not just those three that we mentioned. These are basic criteria, but there are a lot of chapters that should be that one candidate country should work on. And there is a so-called screening process afterwards, a screening, etc., which means that the European Union is considering each step of the country, how it's developing, and whether it is already ready, the country is ready to become a member of the European Union. Unfortunately, as you see, we received this recommendation almost 9 years ago, but we haven't started negotiations yet. The only problem was and is still Greece because of the name issue, because I told you it's a political question and we won't discuss about that. But it's obvious that they, as a member state country, they had the right to put kind of veto. Why? Because the unanimity is one of the characteristics of the European Union voting system. Of course, there is another voting system for different questions, but for this kind of question, when one country should join the European Union, there is a unanimity. Unanimity means that each member state country should, each member state should give green light to a new country to join the Union. Greece was against and is still against, and that's why Macedonia is stuck in one point of time. In the meantime, then the Commissioner Fula proposed one new form of cooperation with Macedonia, which is called High-Level Accession Dialogue, CLAD we call it, which means that not to wait for the official negotiations to start, let's work in the meantime on some important issues like reforms of the media, reforms of the court system, reforms of the public administration, etc., in order to be ready when you will come in the stage when Greece will say, okay, problem is solved, because we will work on this problem soon with Greece. Okay, the problem is solved, and then Commission will say, okay, you already have completed some of the necessary steps, so we will skip one level and we go on the next one, which means that we will be a little bit in advance thanks to this CLOT. But CLOT as well functioned for some time, but then Fula went, another commissioner came, and a little bit this dialogue was not active, I would say. So now we are in a position to basically to find solution for the problem with Greece in order to continue our accession to the European Union. We have a new government recently, which is ready to discuss about this. Of course, there is a lot of discussions in the society whether Macedonia should change the constitutional name and what would be the new name in order to go forward. So, as a diplomat, I could say that it's worth it to discuss. As Macedonian, I might say we don't have another name. This is our name with centuries. So it's a little bit tricky. We don't know how it will end. We don't know how it will develop. But the good thing is that there is a will from Greek side, from Macedonian side. Before there was no will. There was no discussions. There was no communication. It was going through UN, like some kind of discussions, secret talks, whatever. Now they are willing to discuss. Of course, very important issue for accession of the European Union are the relations with the neighbors. Greece is our first neighbor, like Bulgaria, like Serbia, like Albania, and Kosovo. And the new government already established good communications with all of them, because before there were some criticism that the government was not ready to discuss about open issues. Recently, we signed agreement for friendship and good neighborhood with Bulgaria, because as well we had some historical misunderstandings, but at least it's a good step forward, because we will break some barriers that were not allowing us to develop our relations. What is important is that this readiness of the government to go forward and to bring Macedonia closer to the door of the European Union is positively accepted by the neighbors as well by the European Union, and we will see the results in very near future. But anyhow, apart of being stuck in one position, Macedonia didn't lay down and waiting for the European Union to say, let's move forward. But we were working. We've been working all the time on our reforms. Of course, much should be done more. I mean, additionally, we have to work on our reforms as you do different reforms in your country. But I will show you just some results on the next slides to see that Macedonia was not really laying down. You see, these are some of the facts that puts Macedonia among the best reformers in the world, which means that the reforms, especially in the economic sphere, were going very good. I won't read because you can see all of them. So these are according to some international organizations. And the next slide you will see Macedonia is ranked 10th in the world and 5th in Europe according to the, please next slide, to the World Bank Doing Business report. 10th in the world. For example, Kazakhstan is 35th position, which means that even with all these problems that we have, that we are stuck, we are going forward and we work. We work and we will work on reforms because reforms are good for Macedonians. Reforms are good for the citizens of Macedonia, not just to become member of European Union. Member of European Union is a technical form. What is important is how people will live better in Macedonia. Yes, we have good court system, we have good administration which will serve to the citizens and not vice versa when you go there and they look at you like, what do you want, etc., etc. This bureaucracy that we call it, but to be service of the citizens. This political system, how we organize our political system generally, it is very important. So I think that this was very brief presentation about what I wanted to say, but most important is now to see what you're gonna say, and let's open discussion and let's see how you see Macedonia, European Union, and it's interesting to make parallel maybe because you Kazakhstan is as well kind of member of some regional unions like Eurasian Economic Union, which is economic, but European Union started as economic as well union, but then it was developed and now it's political union. And this is interesting to be discussed how it will be developed in the future. So thank you very much from my side now, and it's your turn. I would enjoy your presentations and then we will discuss. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Ambassador. Now, in your turn, you might be eager to ask questions, but these would be at the end. Those know the questions, who know the answers. So you have the floor, the first team that would present. And as may I remind you the rules, we would ask them to do that in a very concise but meaningful way in up to 5 minutes, following which there could be up to 2 questions. One is the answers to the questions should be very very concise as well. Again, as you, I hope, learned a lot from the presentation, the introduction to this competition. It is really very important to find out how well, in fact, any candidate country interacts with the European Union structures, but this knowledge would be very much of use to your practical work in the future. So who is the captain of?
So as our presentation is loading, please, I'm very kind of sorry for it, but I think we should start our presentation. So good afternoon, dear Mr. Ambassador, dear professor, and dear members and participants of today's conference. Today our team is going to be talking about the topic of Republic of Macedonia in the history of European Union enlargement policy and the positions of both sides in the accession process. Let me introduce you our team members. Our team members are Stignato Isiva, the student of law, and Mia Shopanovska, the student officer. And the initial purpose of our research work is to give the general overview on the session process with a special reference to the economic and political integration and the challenges of the Republic of Macedonia and the way of joining the European Union. So we'll be dividing the content of our research work into three parts. First, we'll be talking about the history between the Republic of Macedonia and the European Union, following by the positions of the European Union and the Macedonian accession process. So starting with the history, you've already thought about it, but I'm going to review it because it's part of our research work. The Republic of Macedonia began its formal process of rapprochement with the European Union in 2000 by initiating negotiations about the European Union's stabilization assessment process. And it was the first country from the, that is, non-European country from the Balkans to sign the stabilization association process, and it got ratified. It got ratified by all the member states in April 2001, and it was the first country to be ratified by all the member states, and it came to force on 1st of April 2001. And after receiving the official status as an acquis, or as a candidate member, we call the candidate member as an acquis. So the Republic of Macedonia should and must satisfy all the conditions and criteria of the European Union. And talking about the positions of the European Union in the assessment process. The criteria of the European Union is a bunch of conditions that all the country members and candidate countries must satisfy in order to become the member states. And the criteria is divided into three parts. The first part is about the political criteria. The political criteria is about the stability of institutions that guarantee democracy, the rule of law, protection, and respect for the minorities. And the second one is about the economic criteria. The economic criteria is about the economic structures and functions in the country that is capable of coping with the international market forces and competition forces. And the third is an administrative. And there is also one important thing to the basic criteria. Yeah. And the third is administrative and institutional capacity to effectively implement the acquis or candidate country and the ability to take on the obligations of membership. And there is also one important thing to talk about. The European Union has 100% of the right to decide when a country, candidate country, has met all the criteria or all the conditions, and the European Union has 100% of the right to be ready and to say when the European Union is ready to accept a new member. So,
Dear Mr. Ambassador, dear Professor, I would like to talk about the position of the Republic of Macedonia in relation to accession into the European Union. We have divided. The next slide, please. We have divided our presentation, our presentation on position of the Republic of Macedonia in relation to the accession into the Macedonia into two sides. It is a political side and the economic side. Starting from the economic, you can see that it is worth saying that from the economical point of view, the Republic of Macedonia is kind of ready and has its progress. Macedonia was chosen as the fourth best reformatory state in 2009 according to the World Bank ranking, and has its most exports going into the European Union. Also, talking about macroeconomic stability, it has been maintained by a prudent monetary policy and has its own currency hedged against euro, which led to the open economy, with trade accounting for more than 90% of GDP in recent years, as you can see on the graph. And moving to politics. We can surely say that the Republic of Macedonia is fully ready to become a member of the European Union from the point of political side. It has a stable internal political situation, and the concept of human rights or democracy are fixed in the Constitution of the Republic of Macedonia, which is very important for the European Union. Also, it has a warm, tolerant external relationships with the vast majority of states around the world, including the Republic of Kazakhstan. It is a member state of the United Nations since 1993. And accession of Macedonia into the European Union was determined as the highest priority for the future, for the nearest future, along with the accession into the NATO and international recognition under the title of the Republic of Macedonia. Concluding our presentation, our both speeches, I would like to say that we consider the Republic of Macedonia as the worstest candidate for the future for the European Union, and we think that we see that the Republic of Macedonia matches all the requirements of the European Union accession, and we're wishing much luck. In my point of view, the European Union is open for a new member that, as like the Republic of Macedonia, since it has a very stable political situation, economical situation, trade situation with external trade situation, and Macedonia, according to the will or according to its will to join the European Union, it is ready. And I think that according to the situation that goes in the European Union, it is ready to accept the Republic.
Your question was about the 100% readiness. Yeah, yes. In our presentation, we showed the accession process. We talked about the right of European Union to accept a new member and to see if the country's economic and political and other situations and integrations based on the criteria. And with our presentation, we meant that European Union is kind of responsible for accepting the new member and for deciding whether the country meets all the criteria or all the conditions. And 100% right about this.
Mr. Ambassador, you mentioned that in order to accept a new member into the European Union, all member states, all 28 member states of the European Union need to give a green light to the incoming state. Since the Republic of Macedonia accepted the new government, which already stabilized the relationships with Greece, with Bulgaria, I think that the European Union is ready, is almost 99.9% ready to accept, and this 9 of 10% is coming from the moment of time in the nearest future. course, the exit of the United Kingdom from the European Union and the establishment of Brexit gave it some kind of an impact on the European Union. But I think that the European Union is such a major object, political object in our world that it sees it will not change very very much. It will stay stable as it goes, and the one thing that will change is that the European Union will try, of course, as any political subject, to go forward to like implementation of new norms, and the decline of illegal migration, or anything that does not fit the law of the European Union. But it can be considered as the aim of any own respecting international subject in the world.
I think continue, please. Well, I do agree with my member, but there's one thing to mention. I don't really think that there will be some major changes in the shape of the European Union in every perspective, but I think that there will be some differences and changes in the perspective of the criteria and conditions, because with the simple logic, the world has become bigger, and the world is becoming very competitive. The countries kind of are better than the before, and for this reason, the criteria might be stricter than before, because all the countries kind of meet the conditions of the European Union.
Dear Mr. Ambassador, dear Mrs. Dean, and dear students and professors, the theme of our presentation is Should Macedonia continue its preparation for European Union's membership and the benefit of pre-accession process? Let me introduce the members of our group is Kakimova Aynur, Bajano Mirer, and Dosanova Sultanat. The next slide, please. The Republic of Macedonia in 2005 became an official candidate for European Union membership. I will continue. In order to become a European Union membership, official candidate, all the countries should comply with the high standards of European Union. And one of them is democracy and more stable, economically sound, more cleaner environment, and the better and safer connections.
Dear Mr. Ambassador, dear Professor, I want to talk about the next step, pre-accession process. The Republic of Macedonia, during the pre-accession process, so I want to talk about the next step, that is the pre-accession process. And the Republic of Macedonia, during the pre-accession process, achieved visa-free travel to European Union for the citizens of the country to travel to the Schengen area, which has been enforced since 2009. The implementation of the new legal framework on human resource management started as the Republic of Macedonia relations with the other enlargement countries and actively participated in different regional initiatives. And according to the report of the European Commission, there is a good level of preparation in developing a functional market economy. And also macroeconomic stability was preserved and macroeconomic environment strengthened in 2015. It was supported by major public infrastructure spending and foreign direct investment. And there is a huge progress in fostering innovation, foreign investment, and also digitalization. The Republic of Macedonia also achieved improvements in transport and energy sectors, which shows that overall the Republic of Macedonia has the ability to assume responsibilities and obligations which set forth in official documents in European Union.
Mr. Ambassador and Professor, I'm going to continue to talk about the pre-accession process. So in 2007 and 2013, the instrument for pre-accession assistance allocated about 610 million euros for cross-border cooperation for transition and institution building for human rights and rural development. And in 2015, the second instrument for pre-accession assistance allocated 642 million euros for country strategy paper for governance and democracy and for structural reforms. And the European Commission allocated about 15 and 15. The European Commission allocated about 15 and 15.5 million euros for increased mixed migration flows to cope better, and about 4.4 million euros for humanitarian aid. Next slide, please. The civil society facility. The civil society facility provided financial assistance to Republic of Macedonia about that the Republic of Macedonia can provide the following criteria.
So, the Republic of Macedonia, on its path to the European Union, benefited in many areas, including mobility of the citizens, also reforming public administration, improving and fostering innovation, and also competitiveness of small and medium-sized enterprises, and also developing education, social policies, working towards a clean environment, a safer food, and thus overall ensuring the rule of law in stable democracy. And the benefits of the pre-accession process is clear enough, even not mentioning the fact that the Republic of Macedonia has the biggest trading connection with the European Union. And European Union ambassador to Skopje, Samuel Bugar, states that European Union shares optimism that in general things are going well. Reforms that they are going to expect to see in the country are being implemented, and they encourage the government to continue. So after putting the issue in broad perspective and having done some research regarding our topic, we came to the conclusion that we share the same point of view and we support the Republic of Macedonia to continue its preparation for European Union membership. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. You took another angle, let's say, comparing with the previous presentation, and I would like to ask you something. I was very happy to hear so many positive things talking about my country, but let's ask you, what are the negative things and what is the problem? What are the areas where Macedonia should work mostly? Do you have any information, maybe any ideas in which areas in particular Macedonia should work much more in order to cope with the challenges of the accession to the European Union and to fulfill the criteria at the end of the European Union? Thank you.
Our topic was the benefits of a pre-accession process, so we mainly focused on the advantages of the pre-accession process. Yes, there are some details which should be worked on, and according to the news that I've heard and the current situation in the Republic of Macedonia, there is new government systems that operates, and it's more likely to support European Union integration. And I think that there is maybe some political sphere should be regarded, like taking into closer consideration. I mean that but you have a good relationship with a neighbor states, but if the current issue with your southern neighbor would be changed, solved, then I think that there will be no case for vetoing in European Union. So the main impediment, you can just work on it and solve it, and I think that there is a just future for this salvation, because both countries are eager to accept new change and seeing the problem from new perspective. So.
And the second question, because everybody should be in an equal position, each group will get 2 questions. And the second question coming from my side will be more on the structural issues pertaining to the very system and process established by the European Union for the accession countries. As you know, for instance, the so-called East Europe enlargement, or the 5th enlargement, which was mentioned today repeatedly, the 10+2 new members of the European Union, each and every one of them negotiated over 31 chapters. A chapter is an area of competence which has to be negotiated in terms of accepting the acquis communautaire, the legacy of the European Union. So, how many chapters you believe Macedonia would have to negotiate? Or, to prompt you the answer, not necessarily in figures. I'm not here after the the concrete number. But the question would be more chapters, less chapters, the same number of chapters. What would be your opinion?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Professor. You mentioned that 37 chapters are fulfilled with the other member states. So I think that such an enlargement policy, which European Union has, is the a good idea for enlarging the territoriums in which they operate. In this case, if we consider the Republic of Macedonia, I think that the current position of this republic is good, and there are lots of economical, political, also administrative development in the country. So I think that there may be 37 chapters, the same number, or it can just be beyond of expectation from my perspective, because with the enlargement policy and with the support of European Union, this country can achieve a lot, much more. As we know, there is instrument for pre-accession assistance, and there are also some financial assistance which can be very beneficial for the country to implement these new reforms and to fulfill these chapters and rules which are indicated in the policy. From our perspective, we think that with some support from a European Union side, the Republic of Macedonia has big potentials, and afterwards they can fulfill even more chapters of these structural rules.
You would be a good diplomat. You answered the questions in all three ways. And the right answer is yes, indeed, more chapters than the fifth enlargement had. Not because of the candidate, not because of the country under survey in this case, but because of the rearrangement by the European Commission of the spheres of competence that has to be covered. In other words, already Croatia covered more chapters than, say, Bulgaria and Romania. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon, the ambassador, the professor, and other guests with our participants. So let me introduce our team. The one member is Saulianova Dusanova Saulia. She's a student of civil engineering faculty, and me, I'm Jean Yezhepova. I'm a student of faculty of science. And our topic, aims to evaluate the preparation level of Macedonia in comparison with the other four candidate countries, such as Serbia, Montenegro, Turkey, and Albania. So, but first of all, we have to look through the main requirements for European Union membership. There are three main kinds of requirements to members of European Union. First of all, is all citizens of the country, of the candidate country, should get a opportunity to participate in elections on equal basis, and the people of this country have to get the right to establish political parties and have to get the right to have their own opinion and protect it. The second one is candidate countries have to have a competition market, and the third one, candidate countries have to have ability. They just have to bring their laws into the line of the body of the European law, also known as. Let's move on to political criteria. So there is a table which represents the information about all 5 candidate countries. This political criteria has main 2 areas: democracy and public administration reform. Democracy, as we see, Serbia and Montenegro are moderately prepared for in democracy area. Like, for example, in election in April, I guess, yeah, in election in April in Serbia, there was various of choices. There was like unfunded fundamental fundamental freedoms. And moving on to the public administration reform, most of the countries made good progress in this field. Regards to Republic of Macedonia, the new legal law of on human management of human resources of management, they just started recently. But however, like the use of public sector as a political, yeah, it just continued to be concerned. So the next one, this is democracy index. As we see, there isn't any differences between countries, but nevertheless, the Republic of Macedonia takes like not the first places here. So one of the most important criteria is economic criteria. We've made a kind of 2 main criteria. So the first of all is a functioning market economy. Here you can see that functioning market economy is a kind of free enterprise system wherein goods and other services can go to the open market. Here you can see that the high level of a functional market economy has shown by Turkey and the other 4 candidate countries on the same level. It means in a moderately prepared level. And the second criteria goes from the first criteria. As you know, market economy means market economy encourages increase in competition. All the countries should they have to have a strong domestic market to compete with other giant corporations in a European Union. So in that case, you can see that Republic of Macedonia and also Turkey has the highest level of ability to be competitive. And the least prepared is Albania, which has only some level of preparation. So also there is an additional point about corruption. As we know, corruption is a kind of disease for a country, and it leads to self-destruction of the country. That is why all the countries are taking actions to undertake to destroy the consequences of corruption. But the successful one is Montenegro, and unfortunately, Macedonia and Albania only has some level of preparation. in that field. The next area is human rights. Human rights, we represented the two main areas of human rights: freedom of expression and freedom of assembly and association. As we see, almost like 5 candidate countries are at the same level of the freedom of expression. But it's worth to say that Turkey and the Republic of Macedonia have some problems with freedom of assembly. There are still strict rules to women or to to the groups like LGBT. But there are like ongoing and criminal cases against journalists, against writers, against social media users. So the next slide. So the most, in my opinion, the most problematic area in the human rights of the Republic of Macedonia is intimidation of journalists. Because I've written, I've read the article about the penalization of journalists, which was on 12th of April, I guess, to 2016. There was 2 journalists which had injury, and I think that will be the most big problem in the future. And then let's move on to social criteria. We've highlighted 5 social criteria, the most important 5 social criteria. And in that case, we can see that I can highlight 2 main of them, where all the countries on the same level, and they need further development and work hard more in that features. Is a position of men and women in society, and the environment and the climate change. It means it includes actions to undertake climate change, air quality, and waste management. So, and other criteria about the freedom of religion. Generally, I can say that all countries are on the same level, and they are working on that field. And about the science and research field, I can say that innovation system in Turkey in more in a well advanced level than other countries, but Macedonia also have a good potential in that field because they are in a good level of preparation. So, and the last one concerning the health protection. It means protection of human rights, protection of patients' rights. In that field, Macedonia again has a moderately prepared level, while Turkey has a good level of preparation. So we think that we have to develop. Macedonia have to notice all these features and develop it in the future. And in conclusion, we can say that Macedonia is not fully prepared for European Union. It still has to work, but Macedonia can compete with Turkey in that field, according to statistics. So thank you for attention.
Okay, this time I will go first. Thank you very much. This comparative analysis is probably usually the most difficult one to undertake, because you have to to combine the individual tailor-made approach that the European Union should have towards each candidate, as well to combine it with the group treatment coming from the same area or coming from the same level of development. So we've done very well, and I thank you very much for this comparative analysis. Of course, my question will be about not Macedonia but Turkey. And you said on a number of occasions in this presentation that it sounded like Turkey is perfectly okay, in particular in economic terms and even science, as compared to other of the competitors. But how does I would like to ask you, what would be the impact of potential entry of Turkey on the common agricultural policy of the European Union? To give you some more time to think on the answer, I would remind you that the common agricultural policy of the European Union requires fixed agricultural produce prices, which means that a lot of the subsidies that the European Union does go to the agricultural sector. Also, to remind you, the common agricultural policy has been one of the most controversial areas of reform of the European Union itself. So, how that would be reflected to a population and a productive force of 80 million? Wouldn't that be like asking a whale into an aquarium?
Okay, thanks for the question. We think that Turkey, according to current situation, Turkey has a political issues, you know. That's why some European countries do not want to cooperate with Turkey. And I think that if Turkey will join the European Union, there will be some misunderstanding with the previous countries who gives subsidies and gives more money for the development of Turkey. Mr. Ambassador, in my point of view, Turkey is one of the leader of agriculture area, and like simply said that European Union needs Turkey because of that agricultural development which is takes place in Turkey. But what about Macedonia? I don't think that Republic of Macedonia has a big any chances to bring something new to agricultural sphere, and that's why Turkey is have more chances to join the European Union.
To be honest, this provocative question wouldn't be answered even by politicians in some of the European countries or Turkey even. So I would like to thank you for the presentation. What I like your approach of comparison, but my question is this is not the right question. I will pose the question later, but the first question is where did you find this data to make comparison? Because usually when you have this data, you have to write the source down there because
yes, we have references, and also we take this data from reports of each country, from Macedonia and
okay.
countries. Yes.
So please go back. Please go back to some of them. I won't discuss. What I like is the criticism that I asked before. You remember? I said I would like to see some criticism, not just good things, but some bad things as well. Some of them were touched, and I think that you are right that the sphere of media and journalism is one of the most problematic in Macedonia. I used to be a journalist 20 years ago, and I have a lot of friends in the media sphere. So I think that it's one of the most problematic areas. I agree with that. rule of law as well. Nobody mentioned until now the rule of law, which means implementing the legal framework in practice. So the law to be relevant for you and for me, and not just for me and not for you. This is what it should be done as well. This is one of the problematic issues. And as I saw somewhere, please don't go so fast because the capacity to cope with the competitive pressure of the market. I agree that it's good, but it can be better, of course. Fight against corruption is one of the major problems. But not only in Macedonia, let's be honest. This is an issue everywhere. In this country, in European Union as well. But they do it in a more sophisticated way. I wouldn't tell you how they do it because I know some schemes, but they do it in a sophisticated way. You don't see it, but you feel it if you are so smart. You know? So the issue is that corruption is one of the evils of every society, everywhere. This is probably in the gene of the people to search for a way how to take some extra money, you know? I'm one of the fighters against corruption. It's one of the topics in my master thesis as one of the major problems of Macedonia to enter the European Union, but generally to develop the democracy, because with corruption you cannot develop democracy. You see Mugabe 2 days ago, huh? So he was living in gold and his people were struggling. So we are talking about one social phenomena which is everywhere, and everyone should fight against this. Of course, first with ourselves in our minds. But I like that you put that. Let's go on the next slide, please. Yes, human rights, you mentioned freedom of expression. I agree, there is a lot of, but what do you think? My question is now. This was a comment. My question is now. What do you think? If you compare Macedonia with much more developed countries, let's take United States. What do you think? That the media are completely independent and not influenced by the politics in other countries, only in Macedonia?
So we can say that.
And what about the freedom of expression? Yes, what do you think that everywhere, even in the most democratic countries, you have 100% freedom of expression? What do you think?
I think that you compare it to the United States and Macedonia. I think that everywhere yes, for example, just yes, okay. Then I think that there is always border between the community, society, and between the social like social medias, and in that case, you know that bias. In fact, we don't have to. Okay. Okay, Mr. Ambassador. My point of view, as you said, that everywhere this is kind of corruption. Everywhere, I don't think that in every like. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Okay, the United States or Norway or Canada, like the most democratic countries, have that issue. But I think it's more close But for example, those elections in United States, in my point of view, I think that it's like everyone knew the result of that election, but government but government made like in that way where like citizens and the people of that country made them think that they have some kind of influence to that election, but it's not the real fact. No, I don't think so.
Good day, Mr. Ambassador. Good day, Professor and dear students. So, firstly, we would like to introduce ourselves. First of all, I want to say that we are all from different faculties. For example, Dr. is from International Relations faculty, Dr. from Social Sciences faculty, and the Bota from the Informational Technologies faculty. And I'm Dastan from the International Relations faculty. So, the topic of our presentation is the how the Republic of Macedonia cope with the requirements established by Helsinki European Council in 1999 and the Copenhagen criteria for European Union. So the European Council in 1991 in Helsinki finally adopted the Millennium Declaration, set a new stage of enlargement process, and the Union targeted to we have effective reform institutions and strengthen common security, defense policy, and competitive job generating sustainable economy. Next, please. There are there are other key points of the European Council. 99. In case of the candidate countries for United European Union membership, among which is the Republic of Macedonia, assistance should additionally focus for support of following ideas. The first one is adoption and implementation of the acquis communautaire, and the second one, support of the development of policies as well as of preparation required for implementation of the community's agricultural and cohesion policy.
So in the last hour, we've been talking about the Copenhagen criteria, and I want to talk about how Macedonia actually, what kind of result they had in order to cope with this criteria, especially with the first one, which is the stability of institution, guaranteeing democracy, the rule of law, the human rights, respect for and protection of minorities. Here we have the main events that happened in the Republic of Macedonia. We show how the country is actually following the first criteria, such as the first one as the Ohrid Framework Agreement that happened in 2001, which was the peace deal between the government and the Albanian representatives. Next, we have the Prishtina Agreement in 2015, which led to the early parliamentary election in 2016. Next, we have the establishment of Academy of the Judges and Prosecutors, following the European standards. Then we have the fight against corruption. Here we have the establishment of protection of whistleblowers in 2016, and the fight against organized crime, that the establishment of National Coordination Center for the Fight Against Organized Crime. The Republic of Macedonia have been working with Europol since 2011, working with Eurojust 2010, and we have the country has a modernized law on criminal procedures since 2010. Also, the freedom of expression, the establishment of independent syndicate of journalists in Macedonia in 2016.
Also in 2016, the enforcement of Protocol 15, amending the Council of Europe Convention for Protection of Human Rights and Fundamental Freedoms. Also, the country is an observer of European Union Agency for Fundamental Rights. The next one is the Directory for Personal Data Protection, which is which is about the social media, social networks, and the users of those contents. The freedom of thought from science and religion. For example, the registration of religious communities of Orthodox Albanians. The next one is the national strategy for equality and non-discrimination according to sex and gender, which is from 2016-2010, which was established in June 2016. And the last one is the protection of minorities. It's like Roman decade from 2005 to 2015, 2014 to 2010 strategy. And national TVs and radios broadcasted in languages of those minorities.
So for the second criteria, it is a function market economy that obliges to cope with competitive process and market forecast with the European Union. The criteria demands to have the functioning economies and competitive economy. As we all know, the Copenhagen criteria are rules that demand that define whether a country is eligible to join the European Union or not. In our opinion, Macedonia, the Republic of Macedonia, is eligible to join the European Union since it has attractive investment climate, successful and a successful prevention. Then the country also has a retail free trade with countries such as Ukraine, Turkey, and the European Free Trade Association. Then, most importantly, the country has an unemployment. Their unemployment is decreasing to 24%. Then the country should also keep on focusing on the post investment and yes. So yeah. So the general remarks, as I stated, were the unemployments and the cooperations with the countries that were also stated, that are Ukraine, Turkey, and the European Free Trade Association. Then, well, basically, already.
Secretary is about to take on obligation of membership of EU, and the Republic of Macedonia is moderately prepared in areas of transport and energy. There we are adopted the Schengen Action Plan was adopted in 2028, and also the country is has already a part of the most of all international human rights instruments, like European Union Agency for Fundamental Rights. To summarize, the Republic of Macedonia is largely in line with Copenhagen's criteria in most areas. Thank you for attention.
Thank you. Uh, can we go some slides back? So I will tell you where to stop. Go, please. Here, it's okay. On this slide, I would like to emphasize that you did quite good analysis of this aspect of the criteria that Macedonia should fulfill. This is in line with what I was talking about, that Macedonia is ranked very high for attracting investments, for startup businesses, etc., etc. So all these things that you wrote here are really one of the positive aspects of our economy. Thanks to these technological industrial development zones, we attracted very huge companies to invest in Macedonia, and thanks to this, to decrease from 38 almost percent unemployment to 24, which is still high, but at least it is 14% less than several years ago, which is an excellent number, of course. And thanks to these free trade agreements that Macedonia has with all countries in Europe, including Turkey and Ukraine, we have free access to the market of 650,000 million people. 650, sorry, million people, which means that all the companies that are producing in Macedonia can freely export in the European Union without any taxes, which is a great positive aspect of the free trade agreements that we have with all the countries, including European Union, thanks to the stabilization and association agreement that was mentioned in one of the previous presentations, which is the most valuable document between Macedonia and the European Union until now, because all the relations between my country and European Union are based on this stabilization and association agreement until we get the membership of the union. Let's go one slide back, or two slides back. Back. Not forward, back. More, please. Back. Here, please. Okay. What do you think? Is my question. Does any country member of the European Union has adopted and implemented in practice the Convention for Protection of Human Rights and Fundamental Freedoms by the Council of Europe? By the way, Council of Europe is not an institution of the European Union. It's pan-European organization, not to mix with the European Council, because usually even journalists are mixing this, and probably they don't know what is the difference, but Council of Europe is one bigger organization where all European countries, even some our neighbor countries, are part of. But what do you think? Especially because European Union is insisting on human rights, minority rights. What do you think? That all the member states of European Union has adopted this convention or not? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for your question. This question is actually quite tricky because I believe there is no. No, I mean because the protocol is actually very harsh to implement to other countries and not. I
think in some level, each country has accepted this convention, and I think the countries that haven't accepted fully are working towards that. Since working on that.
I feel that this question was tricky enough, but mine will be on the structure. You know, I'm more interested in advertising our course on European integration, so I'm perfectly well aware that those who follow the course will be able to answer to the following questions, which I offer to the panel of these presenters. Has it been the case that in terms of decision on acceptance of a country as a member, the European Commission has given negative opinion, called a V, and nevertheless, the Council has taken positive decision to accept the country. If so, when that it happened, and in what way then you would compare the relative weight of these criteria? Of course, you might argue that every criteria has an importance of its own. However, if we assume that the European Commission is more concerned with the economic aspect of the integration rather than with the political aspect, and other organs of the European Union are more concerned with different dimensions of this multi-layer criteria, then how would you esteem which is the egg and which is the chicken?
Of course, working towards the EU membership and following those criteria are as important as each criteria. But I believe that according to the present situation in European Union, there are some criteria that need to be focused. First of all, firsthand, such as, for example, the first criteria that was mentioned about the democracy, the rule of the law, and the protection of minorities. I think nowadays is more important than the other criteria, and I believe that the country should.
Well, will the grades difference? Will the grades? Um, the grades?
Good. I believe that we have exhausted. Thank you very much. Well, what I would suggest, while thanking you for your participation, for your interest into the topic, we have to make some conclusions about the final not ranking, but to take the decisions about this contest, which was, in my view, very interesting competition. I hope that you would be benefiting from it. You would know more, not only about Macedonia, but also about more of the complexity and the challenges of your questions. We have technically need about 5 minutes or how many to fill in the certificates, and then we will close the call of the event. But please, in the meantime, think of your questions, prepare them for the ambassador only. Professors are not about to answer.
Yeah, understand the question. Thank you very much. This is not in compliance with the topic, basically, because it's not related to the European membership. This is not a requirement. This is a situation. Yeah, yeah, it is situation, and it's very serious situation. Not just for us, but for myself. I had one special presentation at CASGU for the migration, and it's a very interesting topic. Why? Because Macedonia was exactly on the road of the. Can you go on my presentation, please? Where's my presentation on the computer? They switched off. Okay, I will explain you. The migration from the Aegean, not just Aegean, but African countries as well, was going through Greece. No, it's okay. Through Greece, through Macedonia, Serbia, and two lines. One going to Hungary on the north, one on the west to Croatia, Slovenia, Austria, Germany, etc. So, anyhow, Macedonia was crossroad. That's why I told you Macedonia is crossroad of civilization. Why? Because the south-northern connection in Europe goes through Macedonian territory. West-east connection from Italy, Albania through Macedonia and Bulgaria goes to Black Sea. Is the other connection. The first one is called Corridor 10. The second one is Corridor 8. They are going exactly through Macedonia. And what is interesting thing here, when migration waves, the 2 years ago, the strong migration waves came to the European ground. The first point after Turkey was Greece. Yeah? They came to Greece, and Greece is what? Member of European Union. Yes. And now it's interesting that from a member of European Union, migrants were entering a non-European member like Macedonia in order to continue its way to the rest of the European members like Germany. Mostly they wanted to go to Germany. So Greece was not ready to cope with the challenges of the migration process at all. They were just pushing the migrants going through Macedonia, go to Germany. No? And then European Union said, oh, you Macedonia, you have to protect your border because the migrants are coming through your country. No, they're coming through your territory, European Union territory, from Greece to Macedonia and then going to European Union again, which means we were in the middle. And thanks to some friendly countries from European Union, a lot of not just financial but human capacity support came. Some soldiers, police from other countries, from Hungary, from Czech, from Estonia, whatever. They were helping Macedonian police forces on the border, not to stop but to regulate the flow of the migrants. Why we are saying this? Because Greece, they didn't have any system of control. They were putting people in the buses or trains and just continue. Okay, we were first up to protect European Union from dangerous migrants, not from people who really suffer. Because I said this, you cannot blame all the migrants. They have their own tragedies. They have their own problems. Yes, but Macedonia was the first country who had really organized properly the system of controlling the entrance, putting them into the buses because Macedonia is a small territory, from one southern border with Greece to the northern border with Serbia, it's just 2 hours by bus. So we put them there. They were controlled. We put them. Very few people wanted to stay on the territory of Macedonia to ask for asylum because they want to go in more developed countries like Germany. Macedonia officially, and our president had system of have established system for managing the situation with the migrants, which was well accepted, and was supported by the European Union and the other European countries, simply because we found a way how to cope with these challenges. After that, Greece, with some help of the European Union as well, tried to cope with the problems. But we have to be honest, not to blame Greece for everything, because the territory of Greece is very complex. They have a lot of islands where the migrants are coming, and you cannot control all the islands. You cannot put soldiers in every island. They have thousands of islands. Yeah, so it's really difficult. And that's why at the beginning they didn't want to cooperate with our police, but they realized that without cooperation with our police, they have problems. So they started cooperating, and the migration was controlled very precisely, and I would say very efficiently. Nobody knows whether there will be another migrants wave, because it is going continuously. As soon as the migrants realize that Macedonia is not very easy route to use, they started using either Bulgarian, either Albanian routes, which are much more complex because of the geography, because of the mountains and other things that they cannot pass. So we don't say that there is no migrants. There are no migrants, but they're controlled. Unfortunately, many migrants entered with false documents that Macedonian country was not capable to discover that they are not original, because European Union didn't want to share the database that they have with Macedonian authorities, saying that you are not a member of European Union, you cannot use our database. And unfortunately, some of those who did massacres in Nizza, in Paris, whatever, they passed through territory of Greece, Macedonia, and other countries, and did bad things because we didn't have information that was shared with other countries. So you see, European Union has as well problem inside, because countries like Hungary, Czech, Poland, they don't want to hear about accepting migrants according to some scheme of the European countries. So this could be a very, very difficult question for European Union. It's a great challenge for European Union, and I think it will be one of the issues that is jeopardizing the unity of the European Union. So how it will end, nobody knows, and we don't know. But what is important for Macedonia is that we establish our own system thanks to some countries in European Union that supported us. We are coping with the challenges. We have around, I don't know, maybe around 1,000 migrants that are incorporated in the society somehow. But everybody says that they don't want to stay in Macedonia. Their end goal is to go in more developed countries like Germany, Sweden, etc., etc. Thank you. So what I'm going to say is not the position of Republic of Macedonia. So yes, I'm ambassador, but I will say my personal opinion as someone who is who follows European Union and what's going on. It's true that Greece has, but it's not from today. It's not from yesterday. It's some years ago. They have huge economic problems, but they receive as well huge economic support from, especially from Germany and from other European Union generally, but Germany is the one who is pushing the most. Why? Because Greece mostly has debts towards Deutsche Bank. So this is political economic issue. It's not really economic issue. And trust me, Greece will never be kicked out of European Union simply because this is not the political way how European Union is coping with the issues. Because according to the master criteria that I mentioned, Greece is one of those that doesn't follow at all these criteria which were established for the European members. You can read about master criteria. I'm not going to talk about it because it's related to the currency, to the economy, etc., etc. So Greece is one of the countries that was always supported by European Union, starting from the point that your professor mentioned when they became a member country of the European Union. What's the future? There are a lot of discussions in the academic area. There are a lot of discussions in the diplomatic. Politicians as well are discussing about this, and there are a lot of different answers. Brexit definitely will change the shape of the European Union, especially Great Britain, definitely, because as we see, they definitely wants to go. There are some forces saying that there is still chance for Great Britain to stay. How this will affect Scotland, Wales, and other parts of the Great Britain, etc., etc., because they want to stay in the European Union. How this will be? You see, there are a lot of question marks now about Catalonia, etc. But there are a lot of other regions in Europe that has the same, let's say, feeling that they should do something like Catalonia, which might jeopardize the future of European Union. But honestly, I would like to be an optimist. But the only thing that I want to say here is that European Union needs a great change inside, especially in the institutions. Because even in the European Union, from my point of view, not as ambassador, but as someone who were studying European Union issues and who is, I was, by the way, Secretary General as well of the European Movement in Macedonia, which is the biggest non-government organization which supports the European Union development, etc., etc. So in this context, I would say that even I have feeling that European Union itself needs democratic development. Why? Because the role of the parliament is still not on that level that should be. Because people, citizens of European Union, vote for the European Parliament members, not for the Commission itself, which plays very important role. So the Commission is kind of government. I don't know how to define basically the role of Commission. And then you have the political body, which is the European Council, where the heads of the member states are drawing the final decisions. So it's always a question of discussion whether this is the most democratic way of drawing decision in European Union as they are doing now, especially with unanimity, because unanimity means that everybody should agree on one particular issue, even if they're against. Maybe majority, maybe 2/3 of votes would be a kind of option for the future. With unanimity, I'm not sure that European Union will go in right direction. And even with this unanimity, you see we have opt-out options. Like opt-out, it is called. Like, for example, for the currency, not every country is accepting the currency. For the Schengen, not every country of the European Union is in Schengen, which means that still this unity is not full unity. European Union has no. Now there are some steps towards this to have a common or joint defense policy, but it's still far away, which means that from the original idea of European Union, which was the founders of European Union, which was, mostly economic and flow of people, capital, and goods. We went to a political stage, which is a little problematic and not clear yet from my point of view. Again, I'm saying European Union needs changes inside. This bureaucracy in Brussels needs changes. Okay, and if they don't do some changes, it would create even more problems. Now we see Poland nationalism is increasing in some other countries as well, etc., 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 which will jeopardize the genuine idea of European Union for unity of all the nations. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Sure. Thank you. And now maybe we call the team number third, Aimjan Yerzhepova and Sauley Dusanova. Maybe now go to everywhere. I do. Thank you very much indeed. And we now come to conclusive. That's good, that's what no problem. And now we have to invite to step forward actual one is Bai and Sabina Paisieva. And I say that we are very much moved on this moment because simultaneously we have to announce that the winner of today is team number 1, Dayton. And as for thank you. And as for every winner, there should be additional awards, so to say, and these come from the presidency of the European Union right now, which is held by the ambassador for Estonia. There is something which you should know and remember about the European Union. We always share solidarity. When one of us is performing, all are ready to help and to support him. There is no more. There was one particular person whom we have to thank a lot this today, and this is Zonk Nguyen, because without his ingenuity, without his leadership, all of your organization, the Model United Nations, this event wouldn't have been so pleasant as it. I hope you all find it. So may I ask him to come? For him, I have of course a very special. But for Zung, I have also the traditional necktie, the necktie of the presidency. Every 6 months, we change the neckties. So this is the fashion of the European Union. And because the European Union is very much gender equal, as you know, I wanted very much to ask Jean-Bota to step back again. It is not a necktie. It is ladies, what's called ladies scarf. But I wanted to single her out, for the reason that she didn't get lost. She had a very difficult questions. One of the questions that were stupefying for a diplomat, and there was no little chance to cover them, but she didn't give up. So don't give up. Just be confident of your own selves, and you never think of the future in other but in bright and optimistic terms.